Are you a chiropractor with a struggling practice, having a hard time finding and keeping patients? Is your staff falling short of expectations? I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and DC Trainings has the answers that you need. So tune in now and find out how. Hello, everybody. Welcome to DC Trainings. I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer. It is a thrilling Thursday to talk about chiropractic. And I want to kick off this next section of our current module, which is Module 2, which is the new patient module. Today, we're going to dive into the primary concerns, and I'll show you how this lays out in the process. But I want to just start off by saying how great it is to be with you today. We have had 3 weeks of problems with our internet in my office. And for those of you who run, modern day chiropractic practices, you know how essential it is to have internet for so many aspects of what we do that are not part of directly helping patients, right? The beauty of not having internet is that I can still take care of patients. So we've been doing that. We've been serving our patients, but at the same time, in the background, we've had this glaring subluxation in the background, this problem, because in my office, we have not had any internet connection, which is why it's been so challenging for me to present the information for you over these past several weeks. So my sincere apologies. I have been pulling my hair out, losing sleep at night, but I'm back. We're back, and I'm so happy about that. So very happy to be with you. And again, I apologize about the past couple of weeks. It's been a bumpy road. Not to point blame at all, but it was an issue with AT&T's router. Their router was the thing that was causing the problems, and we could not figure out where the problem was, even with all the technicians from AT&T working with us. But anyways, that's off topic. So it's great to be with you. Let's jump in. Let's talk about our topic today, which is primary concerns. And as I go through this, as always, please chime in with questions. Let me know where you need help. If it's not on our current topic, that's fine. I can still dive into other topics as needed. But let me go ahead and just share my screen. Oh, and I actually have, let me do this just to move this around a little bit. And then we can start out here. So, so this is, obviously we're moving right along. We're already halfway through the new patient module. So being that we're halfway through, in week 4, we've gone through this process, and I want to just share this with you as an overview, because it's nice to see, from where we started, which was the memorable welcome, really creating that great first impression with your new patient the moment they walk in the door, or even further back, the moment they call your office, right? So having that really great memorable welcome and setting yourself apart from other doctor offices, right? These days, our patients are sometimes going to medical doctor practices. And I don't want to overly stereotype, but I actually just went to a medical doctor, and I didn't have any prescription drugs done. I didn't have any procedures done. I just had something going on in my eye, and I wanted to know what is causing this problem in my eye. And ultimately, it was just a little bit of a rash on my eyelid. And it's cleared up, and I used some natural tea tree oil drops, but again, off topic. But the experience that patients have in a medical doctor's office, or in an office that does not provide that memorable welcome standard, those patients are not walking into those places and getting excited about their experience. And I want to just emphasize that, because as we're building through this module, we have 8 weeks of specific topics, and all of them connect together to create this great experience for our new patients, both in education, in presentation, in professionalism. So those are the areas that we want to make sure that we're not shortchanging our patients in. So memorable welcome was where we started with that great first impression. Then we got into educating our patients about what it is that we do and how it is that we can help them. In other words, what's the condition that if they do have it, they're in the right place and we can help them. We talked about the consultation details. And that's really where the patient shares information with us in terms of what brought them into our office and what health challenges they're having. And I say those two intentionally because what brought them into the office is usually just a small piece of the puzzle in terms of potentially what other health challenges they're having. So we want to make sure that we encompass all of their health challenges. And that way, as they continue with their chiropractic care and their health is improving, then we can see that chiropractic gets the credit, right? We know that as those things slip away because their body is healing better, it's functioning better, they're subluxation free, they're functioning without nerve interference, then they recognize, hey, I shared this when I came in and now it's gone. And the only thing I've done in my health that's real significantly different is I've been receiving chiropractic care. And then that's where they connect the dots. So we'll want to make sure that in the process, and I'm using my mouse on the screen here, but in the process of connecting the consultation details with our topic today, that we really get an accurate list of any health challenges the patient has so that they recognize what the solution was that solved those issues later on. And I'll add one more piece to this, and actually we'll get into this. So I'll add one piece of this as we go through our topic today. So there's, let me just go ahead and jump to this here. The part I wanted to share with you is that the patient's not going to realize these other things are so connected with their nervous system. So that's why, in terms of organizing these primary concerns, we want to make sure the list is complete, right? We're not making things up. We just want to make sure it's a complete list. And then, as I started to say before I showed you the screen, is that we want to make sure we have a complete list because that's the driving force for your patient's retention, right? They may have some symptom that clears up because they're getting adjusted. That's great. That's not what creates this long-term relationship or this lifetime care 1 year at a time approach that we teach with DC trainings. What's going to develop the retention model, what's going to motivate an individual to follow through long-term is how you identify those primary concerns and how those primary concerns are affecting them. And it's about those effects, right? Because you just ask yourself this question, would your patients be more committed to following through long term if they knew how connected subluxations were to causing the things that were interrupting them from doing those things that they love to do? I know that was kind of a long run-on sentence, but you get the point. So let's dive in and talk about how these primary concerns are so important with regards to helping our patients and long-term retention. Okay, and it'll obviously make the report of findings much easier when we have a complete list. This is a sample here just to orient you to the consultation details form. So above this, we had the chief complaint section. Above that, we had the opinions of chiropractic section. Above that, we had the patient's name and some file information that's important. But down here, when we get into the primary concerns, you'll see here where it says their primary concerns, and these were pulled from a list of symptoms. These concerns are lower back pain. Whoops, my mouse is jumping around. Lower back pain for 2 years, allergies lifelong, and indigestion for 10 years. Now, I'm guessing from this file, and I think this is reasonable to assume this, that what brought them into the office was probably the lower back pain. And it wasn't so much that it went on for 2 years straight. What happened was the lower back pain was sort of off and on, or maybe a couple of times, maybe intermittent, but more recently it elevated to a level to where they said, I cannot continue dealing with this without finding some resolution. So that's what brought them into the office, was that it reached some peak or some spike. But from there, they also shared with us, because of the questions that we asked during the consultation, they shared with us that they've had allergies, and that's been a lifelong problem. They also shared with us that they've had indigestion, and that's been going on for 10 years. And as the phrase goes, if you were to wave a magic wand and pick any one of these things to get rid of, which would it be? And you might want to write that down. Our patients will identify to us what their top priorities are. And then once we've identified those, which is how we came up with this list, going back to the screen here, this list, then we want to dive into how are these things affecting you, right? And there's 3 areas that we want to talk about in terms of how they're affecting them, and that is home, work, and hobbies. So how is this affecting, and just to, again, give you sort of writing this down, or the notes to write this down, when these 3 things are at their worst, how do they affect you in certain areas, such as how do they affect you at home? Now, what I didn't do, and this is important because I get this question often from especially from some of the newer CAs and doctors. What I didn't do is I didn't say, tell me how the lower back pain affects you at home and at work and with your hobbies. And then tell me how the allergies affect you at home and at work and with your hobbies. And then tell me how your indigestion affects you at home and at work and with hobbies. See, I want to just take these three areas, these three primary concerns, as we call them, and I want to consolidate them into one question. And that is, when these three things, three issues are at their worst, how do they affect you in terms of your home and your work and your hobbies? And see, this is where we drill down and we really identify those areas where a patient's being most affected. And I'll share those with you on the sample, because you can tell in the sample that we uncovered those things. We really revealed some things that are very personal to a patient, right? They're probably not walking around announcing these things, but this is where they're truly being affected and their lifestyle is being compromised because of these health issues. So the first one is home. How are these three things affecting you when they're at their worst at home? Well, I'm unable to do yard work or household activities. I'm becoming more sedentary. Now, if there's somebody who's really an active person and likes to stay active and really maintain an active lifestyle, if they're becoming more sedentary, that's a big deal, right? That's not something that they're just going to be okay with. Now, at work, how do these three things when they're at their worst affect you at work? Well, I'm missing days of work, so my income is going down. And productivity and negativity is affected because of the pain that I'm in. Or I'm sorry, my productivity is negatively affected by pain. Sorry, I'm reading while I'm talking at the same time. So those are negatively affected because of these issues that I'm having. How about your hobbies? Well, I like to hike. I like to go for walks in the woods, and hiking is negatively affected by allergies every spring. So now we're getting away from the lower back pain, and we're really diving into something that's been more chronic, more long-term, and more affecting the things that they really like to do. So if they can't go out and walk in the woods because their allergies get flared up, then that's a big deal, right? So let me keep going and just emphasize something on this, because as we're going through this conversation, and for the CAs on the call, I know that you want to make sure that you train on this so that you're comfortable. I see Emily on the call, so welcome Emily to the call, and and Katie too. Well, the list goes off the screen, but anyways, so CAs know that this is a real connection that you're making with this patient, because you're obtaining information that they're probably not sharing with very many people. And I mean, in some cases, there's patients that come in, they haven't even shared this with their spouse yet, right? Because they're busy or they have kids and they're just have busy lives and they need to get going and need to stay moving. So you may be the first person that they're actually really sharing these deep-seated concerns about how their lifestyle and their life is being affected. So just know that. And if that is the case and you're getting that feeling, then just know sincere empathy is critical. You want to make sure that you're really connecting with this person and making comments along those lines. So I'll give you an example, because if Emily is sharing with me that she's not able to go hiking in the woods, and it is driving her nuts because she loves to do that, and even talking about it, she starts to get emotional and she's just really feeling strongly that this is affecting her. I don't want to be listening to that and I'll give you an example. Emily says, well, I can't even walk in the woods. And I say, okay. And I write that down. What else? Well, I can't pick up my kids. Oh, okay. And I write that down, right? That's not a sincere empathy connection. What I want to do is be all ears and totally connected with Emily so that she knows that I'm hearing what she's saying and I can make concerned comments. A concerned comment is not okay. A concerned comment is, wow, I'm sorry, or whoa, I understand, or gosh, that is terrible, or wow, and this has been going on for that long, or this is not normal. You should be not having to put up with this, right? So these are concerned comments, and that's why on the screen I wrote that just as a standalone statement, that in this part of your consultation process and your new patient process, sincere empathy is critical. Just make sure you're showing that empathy. And as you're showing the empathy, the good news is most likely that your patient's going to be feeling more comfortable sharing more details, right? If they came in and they're thinking, well, I don't really know you, and other doctors haven't really helped me with this, and I've been around and around and around with no resolution, they might be a bit reserved and kind of holding back on some of the deeper issues that this is causing. But as you express those empathetic responses and as you build that connection, as you bridge the connection, then they're going to feel much more comfortable opening up. And then your list will actually get longer. And as I said, the longer the list, the better the retention. Or to put it more in a short term, the longer the list, the easier the report of findings, right? Because that list that is going to linger in their mind. So let's keep going. So sincere empathy, very important. What we're going to do is we're going to take the whole list. So let me back up for just a moment, because in the consultation details, we talked about the main concern that they came in with, which in this case, we're going to use the example of low back pain. From there, we branched out and we obtained more information. And through our education and our questions, we actually found out that they've also had allergies and indigestion, right? And these have been going on for a long time. Now, we probably also found out some other things. Maybe the person had headaches, maybe they had some wrist pain, maybe they stubbed their toe. I don't know, but there's other things that may have come up. So at the end of the consultation details, remember that we wrapped up by repeating the whole list. We repeated it back to them. And why did we do that? Because we wanted to summarize everything, and then we want to ask this question. And this is a really important question. Given this list of issues that you shared with me, if you could wave a magic wand and just take, but only one of those would go away, but just one, which one would that be? If you could get rid of one and have it never come back, which one would it be? And this is where there can be a switch, right? This is an important distinction, because if I came in with low back pain, and that's been going on more recently, and it's been kind of intermittent, and it's no fun, and I'm sharing that with you because I want you to help me with it as a patient. But at the same time, I've had lifelong allergies that are every year for years and years and years have been affecting me to where I cannot any longer go out in the springtime and play in the flowers, or I can't walk in the woods because my allergies are prohibiting me from doing that. It might be that I came in with low back pain, but if you were to say, wave a magic wand and get rid of one thing and have it never come back, I could just, I mean, in my limited education as a patient, I might say, you know what, I'll deal with the low back pain. If you can get rid of these allergies, I want to get back to walking in the woods. And that's been going on for years. So you see that switch. What brought the patient into your office may not be the same item or the same issue that keeps them in your office. And we need to know which one of these situations we're dealing with. So that's why when I go through, back to my screen here, when I go through my questions, I want to prioritize the top 3 concerns from all the things that they came in with. And again, I'll just repeat it because this is a great way to write this question, or you should write this question down because this is a great way to frame it. If you could get rid of just one of these items and have it go away and never come back, if you could wave a magic wand, which one would it be? And it might be the thing they came in with, the chief complaint, or it might shift, but now you're getting into the root of really what's important to this person. So we're going to prioritize the top 3 concerns from that original list, whatever they shared with you. Now, it might not even be 3. It might be 1 or 2, and that's okay. But whatever those top priorities are, you need to identify those. And that's why we call them the primary concerns. Now, once that's done, then we're going to dive into the effects. And this is what builds into retention, because we want to make sure that we know how this is affecting them and what things that they're unable to do that they enjoy doing the most. What things can't you do now that you would love to do, but you can't because of these health problems? And we have to identify that list. And it could be a long list. And as I've said, and I'll repeat it, I'm sure again, the longer that list, the easier the report of findings. The longer that list, and the more we help this patient, the better the retention is, and the more benefit they'll get for a lifetime of chiropractic care. So we want to obtain the effects on lifestyle. Then we're going to shift. And the shift is, okay, now we have that list, we have the effects, and I'll go through the script in just a moment to show you the details of this. But then we want to kind of take a sidebar or a step to the side, and we're going to get some other information that really ties into how we're taking care of the patient. And also for CAs, if you're doing this consultation, it also ties in with you just getting good information for the doctor to make an educated decision about what this patient needs. So the next part is the list of any medications or surgeries. So the way this is framed is, Emily, if I was to ask you, I mean, as far as the symptoms you're having or any health issues, is there any medications, either over the counter or prescription, that you're taking? And it could be, allergy pills or Tylenol or Advil or sleeping pills or thyroid pills, any medications at all. And then I stop and I zip it because I want them to really give me a complete list. Now, it may be that they've been taking Tylenol for the back pain, right? And maybe they're not even thinking twice about that because they've been in a lot of pain and they have to do it, and that's what's happening, right? But as we ask the question in the way I just shared with you, you're going to see your patients open up more and say, well, yeah, I'm taking Tylenol for the back pain and I want you to help me fix that. But I've been taking thyroid pills medication for 25 years. And my doctor just put me on it, and I've been taking it ever since. Or I've been taking sleeping pills at night because I had trouble sleeping. And it may be that that's not related so much directly to the low back pain, but once again, as we start taking care of our patient and their health is improving, and the need for those medications fades away, where do we want the credit to go, right? We want the credit to go to chiropractic, to your office, for providing that care, for providing that solution. So it's important to get these additional items in there now while we're starting out, so that then we can document the changes and the miracles that come up later. So how would this look? Are there any medications you're taking? Any aspirin, Tylenol, sleeping pills, thyroid medication, digestive pills, anything at all that you're taking, even over the counter or prescription? And then I stop and I wait, and they'll tell me, right? And I make note of those. In addition to that, we want to make sure, and let me go back to the screen, we want to make sure that we document any surgeries, right? I mean, it could be that they had a hip replacement, and it's not, in their mind, they're not realizing that it's tied into this low back pain. But we all know, if you've had a hip replacement, that your pelvis may not be as level as it used to be. And by walking in an imbalanced way, that can put stress on your lower back and trigger a subluxation, right? So we want to make sure, if there's any surgeries, that we document those. So a way to set the bar so they know you mean any surgeries is to say, have you had any surgeries such as wisdom teeth, your adenoids, any surgeries at all, right? Oftentimes a patient will think of their wisdom teeth as just a quote unquote normal surgery, or their adenoids happened as a kid, so they never really thought about it after that, and they consider that a normal surgery. Well, we know in chiropractic especially, there is no normal surgeries. Any surgeries that happen are going to detract from the body's ability to maintain a perfect state of health, because once you've had surgery, there's stuff in your body that's never the same again. So we do want to document those things. And by using, again, a basic example like wisdom teeth or adenoids or hip replacement. I mean, these days, hip replacements are becoming more and more common. So maybe someday patients will think those are normal, which they're not. So we want to ask the question in a way that the patient realizes you mean any surgeries, and those need to be documented. And of course, in the big picture, something like a hip replacement does affect how we adjust a patient. If they've had part of their thyroid removed, that's a big deal. We need, or their adenoids removed. We may want to incorporate some immune system adjustments for the patient so that they can stand to benefit from chiropractic care in terms of their immune response, right? So there's a lot of tie-ins that will help the doctor to make a better decision in terms of what this patient needs when we ask these questions in a thorough way. Okay, so that'll be the last part there. And then the last one is, it's kind of an open net at the end. And this is, a lot of times this is for CAs who are doing these consultations, because, and I know this because my own CAs have expressed this to me, but there's always this fear that from a CA's perspective, that what if I miss some vital information and then the patient ends up getting injured, or they weren't supposed to get a certain adjustment and it was because of information that I missed in the consultation. Excuse me. So this is your catch-all. So at the end of your questions, the way I've shown you, you would ask, now, thank you for sharing this information with me. This is really important, and I'm going to make sure I document all of this for the doctor. I just want to ask, is there anything that I missed? Anything that comes to mind? Anything that you can think of that maybe we need to know in order to take better care of you? And then again, once again, you need to stop and just let that question soak in. And by letting it soak in, you are expressing the importance of that question so that the patient knows they need to really answer truthfully. Is there any other information? And they might say something like, well, does it matter that my family has a long family history of colon cancer? Or does it matter that I smoke cigarettes? Or does it matter that I had, this other surgery, like my adenoids were removed, if you didn't ask that, right? So give them a chance to offer other things so that you allow them to incorporate any of that information in a way that could definitely impact the way we take care of this patient. So that's your open net at the end, CA, so you don't have to worry that you're going to miss something. Just ask the patient, is there anything that I missed or anything you can think of that you think is important? I want to make sure I note that in your file. Okay, so from there, then, and you've been listening. Okay, now I want to just open up here for a second because you're listening, you're soaking this in. You're not writing while they're telling you, right? There's 3 places where we want to write notes down. The first one is after the chief complaint. So it's the chief complaint and the opinions of chiropractic. That's one section of taking notes. And since it's broken up in 3 sections, you can really focus and not think, oh no, I better write this down or I'm going to miss it. There's 3 points where you're going to write, and all you have to do is remember the blocks of information that are presented in each of those 3 parts. So the first one was the opinions of chiropractic and their chief complaint. The second one is the associated symptoms or related symptoms, right, in all the other body parts. That's the second one. And the third one is the primary concerns and the effects of those primary concerns on their lifestyle with surgeries and medications. Okay. And that way you write that down. So that's the 3 sections that you would pause to write down. And that allows you to really stay connected with your patient during the consultation. Okay. So from there, as I said, we write everything down and we repeat it back. Okay, so this is important because when we repeat it back to them, they're going to hear it from somebody else. And it's almost like an out-of-body experience for a lot of patients because they've been sort of harboring this and holding this in and just, trying to just deal with it while they live their life. And suddenly somebody is repeating it back to them and saying that, wow, you've been suffering with all these things, and this is not normal. And we know this because of our experience with patients just like you who came in with these issues. And now after having chiropractic care, they don't have them anymore. So we know that these issues are not normal. And since I'm sharing them with you, I can, as a CA now, I can really express that concern. So it kind of drives the empathy up to a whole new level when you repeat it back and you write it down. Well, you write it down first and then you repeat it back. So that's important. So the third and final series of written notes, you would just pause at the end of them sharing that information with you. Usually it's right after the surgeries and medication, and say, thank you for sharing that with me. I really feel for you. This is not normal. Let me just take a minute, since all this is so important. I'm going to write this down. So bear with me for just a minute. And you let it get quiet for a minute while you're writing it down. And then you repeat it back and list it off. And that way, when you do repeat it back, if you did miss something or something wasn't quite as accurate as it needs to be, the patient will correct you and say, well, actually, it was in my left leg that was the problem. It wasn't my right leg. Or the allergies have been there for 5 years, not 10 years. Whatever it is, they'll let you know, and you can correct that in your notes very quickly. And then everything is solid and ready to go, right? So by doing it this way, and of course, repeating it back for accuracy, then the parting comment by the CA is, it sounds like you have a subluxation, but remember, CAs, you're not in a position to diagnose a patient with a subluxation. That's the role of the doctor. You can say based on your experience or based on your training or based on what you've heard from other patients, does sound like a subluxation, but the doctor needs to come in and determine that for sure. So that's the parting comment. Let me send the doctor in, and the doctor will be able to tell you exactly what it is that you have and what's going on. So at that point, let's just summarize this, because this is the information that's gathered for the doctor by the CA. And doctors, just before I dive into that, let me just say, isn't it nice? Because during the time that this information is being gathered, you're seeing patients, right? So you're adjusting patients, you're taking care of everybody, you're able to increase the volume of patients that you can see in your practice while your CA is gathering this vital information. So it's a great way to raise the ceiling of your practice and serve more people. So from there, now as a doctor, though, I know I've been taking care of patients. I can come in and I know everything's accurate. I have exactly what I need. I can read that, and then I can express my own level of empathy and concern for the patient when I first meet them, which is what we're going to get into in the next section. But before we do that, let me show you this next part, because here's the information that's gathered. And as a doctor, I know that because this is gathered for me, I'm going to be able to really make that empathetic connection. And I'm going to be going in and be able to just jump right into my portion of the new patient's appointment process. Okay, so this is what's gathered for me. I've got the primary concerns, the somewhere between 1 and 3 items that are the top concerns by that patient. And for those top concerns, I know what the original cause and duration was. So I know, is this something that's been going on for a week and they just decided to come in because their back flared up? Or is this something that's been going on for 10 years and this was the last straw, right? So I know what was the original cause and the duration of the primary concerns, and I know how it's affecting this person. So those are the 3 things that I need. And I'll just add one more piece to that. For those of you who are more experienced with DC trainings, you'll know this, but when it says original cause and duration, what's the duration we're looking for? Well, the duration is a minimum of 1 year. Now, I know we're not going to make anything up. If it's only been there a week, it's only been there a week, and so be it. That's fine. But most of the time, our patients come in to see us when there's sort of a last straw event, meaning that they've had it before, it went away, or they procrastinated, they got busy, they had to deal with it, and they didn't take action on it. And now it got to a critical point to where they're seeking your help. So I know that for most patients, it's usually something that's either come and gone for a while, or it's just been building up and getting worse to the breaking point. We want to frame our questioning around what's called digging for chronicity. So we want to dig for chronicity in a way to where if this has been a condition that's been going on for a longer period of time, we identify that and we know how long it's truly been happening, or how long the body has truly been letting that person know that there's a problem. That's what needs to be documented. And we generally look for 1 year or longer in terms of our questioning. Okay, so we want to go back. Once you have a year or longer, you're good. Like if they came in and they said, my low back pain has been flared up for a week, and you ask, when was the first time you can ever remember experiencing pain in that part of your body? Was it just last week, or did you ever experience any of this before? Well, yeah, about 6 months ago, I felt some soreness there, but it wasn't this bad, right? Well, now we're up to 6 months, because if it was a one and done deal, it should be gone. And I want to emphasize this, because let's suppose, we're going to use an example. Let's suppose you had a splinter in your hand, and that splinter, obviously if we left it there would be an infection and it would be a bigger problem, but we take the splinter out and that's fine. Now, a year from now, I don't look at the place where that splinter just was and think, I wonder if that hole will still be here in a year. And I don't wonder that. Why? Because I'm confident that my body will heal itself and get rid of that problem. And I won't even think about it in a year because it's healed up and it's gone. See, with the body, we want to make sure that our patients understand that if you had a symptom of, say, low back pain, and it was 3 years ago, that if that issue had really healed up the way that it was supposed to, unless you re-injure yourself, it should be gone. It shouldn't be there still. And it shouldn't, even on an intermittent basis, it shouldn't be there, right? Your body heals itself and it moves on. And oftentimes I'll use that analogy with patients who are a little more stubborn because about accepting that connection. And I'll use the splinter analogy and say, what if 3 years went by and that was still, the splinter was, the hole where the splinter was still bleeding? Would you be concerned about that? Well, yes, I would. Why? Because the body's not healing. As a doctor, when I hear you say you've had this low back pain, maybe only twice a year or once a year, but it's been there for 3 years, I'm thinking of the splinter. That should have healed up and gone away a long time ago. And without a new obvious injury, you should not have even a vulnerable spot there, right? I mean, if you had the splinter gone and the cut healed up, it doesn't mean you're more likely to get splinters in that spot anymore. I mean, it's literally gone, right? There's no concern about it coming back. And that's how your body functions normally when there's no nerve interference. So I share that with you as an example because in going through the original cause, we want to make sure that our patients understand how the body functions normally. And when there is an issue like an injury or a flare-up, it should heal and go away and not come back, ideally, unless there's a vulnerable spot. And in that case, anytime we're putting stress on our body, the stress is going to focus on the weak link in the chain, as they say, or the focus on the vulnerable spot, and it's going to cause an exacerbation or a flare-up because that spot is still vulnerable, because it never actually, the problem was never actually fixed. It was just masked over and it wasn't actually corrected. And that's where chiropractic care comes in. I know I'm preaching to the choir on this. We are doctors of cause, and that's why, as another saying for the initials DC, we want to fix the cause of the problem, okay? Okay, so that entire consultation is about 10 minutes or less. And I will just say this, as soon as you get to the primary concerns, well, actually, just in the interest of being efficient about time, the sooner you can get to the primary concerns and the complete list of effects, those two things, you're done with the consultation, because that's the information that you need to present for the doctor to do an exam and determine what's needed to help that patient. So as soon as you can get to those things, you're done, right? And being that, some patients will take more time, some patients will take less time, just know, CAs, for those of you doing consultations, that's your focus, is to get in and get that information. How quickly and efficiently and effectively can I get the primary concerns and all the related effects documented? Boom, you're done. And in the website, I have an example of that, which I'll show you, where we have a 6-minute consultation. Okay, so CAs, ask yourself, did I establish a primary concern with a duration greater than 1 year with all major effects? If the answer is yes, great. You've done a great consultation or a great history. When the primary concerns and effects are described clearly, the patient's understanding improves, which is perfect. That's what we want. We want the patient's understanding to transform into an educated decision about how to utilize chiropractic care in their own healthcare approach. The report of findings will become easier when the primary concerns and effects are obtained accurately and completely, right? And I mentioned that's about retention. So the more complete our list of primary concerns and effects are, the longer that patient's going to stay with you, right? The report of findings will be easier. So once that's done, then what happens? Well, the CA leaves the file outside the room for the doctor, right? They say just what I shared with you, right? It sounds like a subluxation, but the doctor's going to come in and let you know for sure. So then the CA leaves the file outside, the doctor's notified that the patient's ready, and we are all set to go into our next section, right? So that's the transition that we'll go cover that next week when we get into the DC exam in our next section. So let's jump over to the website for just a moment. And this is a good time too, just to ask if you have any questions, you can let me know, and I'll be happy to open up your line. On the website, we have the first thing I want to share with you. I shared with you on the image, but here's the primary concerns. I'm sorry, not primary concerns. This is the consultation details form. So this is the form that you'll use to do your consultations and to take your history and to document everything. And as I mentioned, there's 3 points of writing, right? There's a top where we have the patient's information, the previous chiropractic care, and their chief complaint. So that's this section here, and then we'll write that down. Then there's the other health problems described, which is the related symptoms script, and we write that down. And then the third section is we write down the primary concerns, and that's what's filled in here. So there's our primary concerns. I'm sorry, and we would also add the daily activities. I should have filled that in for you here on the sample, but that's the third section of written notes. And even down here, we put it in there for you. Anything else? So there's even a line to put that in. Okay, so given that that's that section, let's go through this real quickly here with this script. So as it says here, this is from the doctor or the CA. You've had low back pain radiating to your left hip for about 5 years, along with frequent migraine headaches and allergies. These symptoms are not normal. And you can probably hear the inflection in my voice. I really want to express sympathy and empathy as I'm going through this review of symptoms. I want the patient to know through the inflections in my voice that I know that this is not normal. They know it, of course, but I know too that it's not normal. Then we're going to establish the primary concerns. If you were to pick one of these health problems and have it never come back, which one would it be? And another way of saying that is if you could wave a magic wand and solve this problem once and for all for the rest of your life, which one would you pick? Well, I'd pick my lower back pain. Thank you. What would you choose for number 2? Headaches. Thank you. What would you choose for number 3? Allergies. Now, along here, we want to maintain our empathy, right? So if they say my lower back pain, you would empathetically, you might say, I would have guessed the same. And then, of course, if they said headaches, gosh, I would have to agree based on what you've shared with me, right? And then allergies was last, but it doesn't mean least. Allergies, yeah, gosh, you definitely would want to get rid of that too, right? So again, we're expressing concern and empathy as they list those off. Then we want to talk about the effects of the primary concerns on their daily activities. So when these problems, not one at a time, but these problems collectively are at their worst, how do they affect your lifestyle at home? Well, at home, I can't enjoy any relaxation because I'm always in pain. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Again, empathy. How do they affect you at work? At work, I cannot focus or be productive, and I take pills to deal with the pain. That's unfortunate. How do they affect your hobbies or leisure activities? I can't enjoy any hobbies anymore because I can't go outside without getting allergies or a headache. These problems really affect me in a lot of ways. And again, empathy. This is not okay. You've been affected in a lot of ways, and I hope we can help you. Repeat the primary concerns to prepare for the third series of written notes. So let me summarize what you've shared with me. Then I'm going to write all this down. Now, this is a little bit of a switch because sometimes you write it down first and then you repeat it back. It depends on how much is there. So if there's a lot to write down, I would say write it down first and then repeat it back in case there's any corrections needed. If it's shorter, you can do it the other way around. Is there anything I missed or left out? Nope, you've covered everything. So then we shift over and we ask about surgeries or medications or anything else. Have you had any surgeries, for example, tonsils, wisdom teeth, appendix? Nope. Are you taking any medication for a chronic condition? For example, aspirin, Tylenol, allergy pills, blood pressure, thyroid, sleeping meds. See, blood pressure is a big one. A lot of patients won't even think that that's abnormal. So we need to point that out. So I'm taking Tylenol 3 times a week. Wow, the pain would be even worse if you didn't have Tylenol. You're right. It is that bad. With everything you've shared with me, is there anything I overlooked or you feel I should know? Nope, that's everything. And there's more going wrong than I realized. See, again, the patient's having this sort of paradigm shift, right? They're realizing, wow, these things are not normal, and they have been building up. Why? Because I haven't been able to correct the cause of the problem. So thank you for sharing these details with me. It sounds like you have a subluxation, but the doctor will be in shortly to find out. If there's any additional tests needed, I'll return to help with that, okay? Or I'm sorry, I'll help with that. Okay, thanks. CA exits the room and leaves the file outside for the DC. And there we go. So that's those two. And from there, actually, let me just check in because Emily, you've been the star of the show our whole call today. So can I open up your line and just say hello? Let's see if you're there. Hello, Emily.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi there.
I think I know you're a relatively new CA, but have you started doing the consultations and getting the primary concerns?
I have, yes.
Great. Great. Well, I know you're part of a great team, so you're probably moving pretty quick. If you don't mind, just share what has your experience been like as far as kind of getting that empathetic connection with your patients?
Um, I think I can be empathetic. I do sometimes fall in, like when we're running short on time, I can catch myself saying, okay, not being so empathetic. So that is something that I probably need to be better at. But you don't always get those cookie cutter clients every time that just give you the information that you're asking for.
Yes, that is so true. And actually, it's I say often the patients don't follow the scripts, which I think that's what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is very true. The But that's so great though. I mean, obviously as you're evolving your skills and your position on the team, it's sure great to be that involved in patient care, isn't it? To have that level of connection with your patients.
Yeah, I definitely like doing the intakes and the case histories, just getting to know our patients more because I feel like the type of care that we provide is definitely getting to know our patients. They see that and they feel that.
Yes, they do. Yeah, that's so great. I'm proud of you because it's a really powerful place to be, and it's a very rewarding position you're in to have that connection with people. And then fast forward from there, right? If you get this connection in the beginning and you really bond with them in that empathetic way, but then they have this transformational experience in their chiropractic care that changes their life, and you've been right there alongside of them the whole way. It's super rewarding. So good for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank you. And happy spring to everybody. Spring has sprung. So we're right up against the end of our call. So let's see. I'm going to just ask for any questions. I don't see any hands up though. So if there's any questions I can answer, great. Otherwise, I have one final reminder for everybody, everyone. Please check in and update your success rate numbers. And I just say that because our site, unfortunately, as I said, I apologize, but it's been down for 2.5 weeks. So please be sure to go back into the site and input your results so that we can measure your success rates and get everything else documented there for you. So on my screen here, you can see that there's zeros in here, and that's only because April just started and our site has been down. So we haven't been able to put in the numbers for the month yet. We do have them in for last month. But again, if I can get everyone's help with that, that'll help us to help you. And happy spring. Thanks for being on our call today. And I will look forward to seeing you next week for our next section, which will be the DC exam. So as always, if you have any questions, reach out to me, dctrainings@gmail.com. Have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.
If you would like to become a member of DC Trainings, be sure to head on over to dctrainings.com to get started today.